London's Labyrinth is a captivating exploration of a young woman's journey of self-discovery and resilience in the heart of London. The protagonist, Adriana, is a beautiful and rebellious spirit who leaves her quiet suburban life to brave the daunting allure of the city. Her journey takes her through the dazzling heights of corporate skyscrapers, the glittering world of the city's elite, the soulful underground music scene, and the gritty reality of urban life. As she navigates through these contrasting facets of the city, Adriana grapples with love, corruption, and societal pressures. She experiences the intoxicating highs and crushing lows of city life, but her rebellious spirit and resilience never waver. From a starry-eyed newcomer to a confident woman who stands her ground, Adriana's transformation is an inspiring testament to the power of self-discovery and courage. Through her journey, she unravels the labyrinth of the city and finds not just her place in it, but also her true self. London's Labyrinth is not just a story about a woman in a city, it's about the city within a woman. It's a tale that will resonate with anyone who has ever dared to dream, to challenge, and to change. With its rich narrative and compelling characters, this book is a captivating odyssey through the trials and triumphs of life in a bustling metropolis. Chapter 1, Suburban Solitude. The morning sun was just breaking over the sleepy English suburb of Amberton, casting a warm golden glow on the quaint cottages and manicured gardens. It was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, a place that thrived on the rhythm of routine and familiarity. But for Adriana, this rhythm felt more like a cage. Adriana was not like the other girls her age. A wild spirit with a thirst for adventure, she felt stifled in the small town she called home. She yearned for something more, something bigger, something different. Her heart yearned for the stories she'd heard of bustling cities with towering skyscrapers and endless opportunities. Gazing out the window of her family's cottage, Adriana's emerald eyes reflected the restlessness of her spirit. Her cascading chestnut hair shimmered in the sunlight, her porcelain skin glowed with youthful vigor, and her lithe figure bore an elegance that was hard to ignore. She was a captivating beauty, but her allure went far beyond her looks. It was her spirit, her fierce independence, and her rebellious nature that truly set her apart. One day, while working at the local cafe, she overheard a conversation that would change her life. A group of tourists were talking about life in London, the corporate world, the high society, the arts, the music, and the people. The city came alive in her mind, a labyrinth of experiences waiting to be explored. That night, Adriana made her decision. She would leave Amberton, the small town where everyone knew her name, and venture into the unknown. She would move to London, lose herself in the city's labyrinth, and find the life she longed for. She was ready for the adventure, ready for the challenges, and most importantly, ready to break free from her suburban solitude. She packed her bags, her heart pounding with excitement, anxiety, and a sense of liberation. The next morning, as the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, she said her goodbyes. With a one-way ticket to London in her hand and a bag full of dreams on her shoulders, Adriana set off on the journey that would redefine her. As the train pulled away from the station, she took one last look at Amberton. It was the end of an era, the close of a chapter. But as she turned her gaze towards the horizon, her heart fluttered with anticipation. Ahead lay London, the city of her dreams, a new chapter, a new adventure. Chapter 2, The Great Escape. The train chugged along the countryside, the pastoral beauty of England unfolding outside the window. Adriana watched with wide-eyed fascination, her heart pounding with anticipation. She was leaving behind everything she knew, trading her comfortable predictability for thrilling uncertainty. Hours later, as the sun began its descent, the silhouette of the city emerged in the distance. The sight of London's skyline took her breath away. The soaring towers, the glimmering Thames, the buzz of life, it was a stark contrast to the tranquil scenes of Amberton. Adriana felt a rush of excitement. She was on the threshold of her new life. Stepping off the train at King's Cross, she was immediately swept up by the rush of the city. People hurried past her, each one absorbed in their world, a stark contrast to the slow-paced life she had known. The cacophony of sounds, the blend of accents, the tantalizing smells wafting from street food stalls, it was all overwhelmingly beautiful. Her first few days were a whirlwind of new experiences. She navigated the labyrinth and underground, walked along the iconic River Thames, crossed the Tower Bridge, and gazed in awe at the majesty of the Buckingham Palace. The city was alive, pulsating with a vibrant energy that was contagious. It was more than she had ever dreamed of. Finding a place to live was her first challenge. After a few days at a budget hotel, she found a small apartment in Camden. It was nothing like her cozy room in Amberton, but it was her own. She quickly fell in love with the charm of the borough, its bustling markets, its rich music scene, and its eclectic mix of people. The job hunt was tougher than she had imagined. With a degree in business and little experience, she faced rejections and setbacks. But Adriana was not one to back down. She took up part-time jobs at cafes, worked late nights, and kept searching. After weeks of perseverance, she finally landed a job at a corporate firm in the heart of the city. Adriana was quickly learning that life in London was not easy. It was a city that demanded resilience, a city that could be as harsh as it was beautiful. But every challenge only fueled her spirit. Every setback made her more determined. Every new experience made her fall more in love with the city. As she settled into her new life, she realized that this was the adventure she had longed for. This was the life she had dreamed of. It was daunting, it was challenging, but it was hers. She had made her great escape, and there was no turning back. She was ready to take on the labyrinth that was London, ready to carve out her place in this magnificent city. Chapter 3, The Glass Citadel. With the arrival of her first day at the corporate job, Adriana woke before her alarm, anxiety and excitement coursing through her veins. She dressed carefully, choosing a professional but comfortable outfit. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, her emerald eyes sparkling with resolve. She looked every bit the part of a city woman ready to take on the world. The firm was housed in one of London's towering skyscrapers, a gleaming glass citadel that touched the sky. It was intimidating, to say the least. As she stepped into the elevator, her heart pounded in her chest. She felt like a small fish in a very, very big pond. Her first day was a blur of new faces and information. Adriana was introduced to her team, given a tour of the office, and briefed about her role. She was to work in the marketing department, assisting in various campaigns and projects. It was a job that demanded creativity and strategic thinking, a challenge she was eager to take on. The corporate world was far different from anything she had ever known. The hierarchy, the politics, the fast-paced nature of the work, it was all very new to her. She quickly realized that this was a world where she would need to prove her worth, a world where her ideas and abilities would be constantly put to the test. Despite the challenges, Adriana took to her job with a fierce determination. She stayed late, worked hard, and quickly became a valuable member of her team. She faced her fair share of difficulties, from handling difficult clients to navigating office politics. But she tackled each challenge head-on, refusing to back down. At the firm, Adriana met a variety of people. Some were welcoming, some were competitive, and some were outright hostile. She faced prejudice and judgment, both for her youth and her beauty. But she refused to let it deter her. She was more than just a pretty face, and she was determined to prove it. It was during this time that she also began to understand the complexity of the city. From her office window, she saw London in all its glory and grit. The magnificent skyline, the bustling streets, the stark divide between the rich and the poor, it was all laid bare before her. Through it all, Adriana remained undaunted. The glass citadel, as intimidating as it was, had become her battleground. It was here that she would prove her worth, it was here that she would make her mark. The city had thrown its first real challenge at her, and she was more than ready to take it on. The journey had only just begun. Chapter 4, Among the Stars. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, Adriana's colleague Natalie invited her to an exclusive party. The event was organized by a renowned fashion designer and was attended by the city's elite. Though hesitant at first, Adriana decided to go, hoping for a brief escape from the pressures of her job. That night, dressed in a stunning black dress that accentuated her natural beauty, Adriana stepped into a world of glamour and opulence. The party was held at a luxurious penthouse, with panoramic views of London's skyline serving as a breathtaking backdrop. Music filled the air as the city's most influential figures mingled, sipping on champagne and discussing the latest trends. Adriana couldn't help but feel out of place, like an outsider peering into a world she didn't quite belong to. But she tried her best to enjoy the night, engaging in small talk and savoring the decadent hors d'oeuvres. As the night wore on, she caught the eye of a handsome stranger from across the room. He was an actor, a rising star in the world of British cinema. His charisma and charm were undeniable, and the two quickly struck up a conversation. His name was Alexander, and he seemed genuinely captivated by Adriana. Throughout the evening, they talked about their passions, their dreams, and their struggles. Alexander, despite his fame, was humble and down-to-earth. He, too, had faced his share of challenges in the unforgiving world of show business. They connected over their shared determination to succeed, their desire to make their mark on the world. As the night drew to a close, Alexander asked for Adriana's phone number, promising to stay in touch. It was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, a foray into the world of fame and fortune that she never could have imagined. In the days that followed, Alexander remained true to his word. He called, sent messages, and invited her to various events. Their connection grew stronger, and soon enough, they began dating. It was a whirlwind romance, filled with stolen moments and passionate exchanges. But with this new love came new challenges. Adriana's relationship with Alexander thrust her into the public eye, where she was scrutinized and judged by the ever-watchful paparazzi. Privacy became a luxury, and she struggled to adapt to the attention. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, Adriana found solace in Alexander's embrace. She had ventured into the world of the stars and found a love that grounded her, a love that reminded her of her own strength and resilience. As she navigated her newfound fame, she continued to face the challenges of her job and the city with unwavering determination. She was learning that life among the stars was not easy, but it was a life she had chosen, a life she was determined to embrace. For Adriana, the journey was far from over. The city continued to test her, to push her to her limits, but she refused to back down. She had come so far, and she was determined to see her dreams come true. Chapter 5, The Underground Symphony. While her professional life and her relationship with Alexander were spiraling into a whirl of chaos and exhilaration, Adriana sought solace in London's rich arts scene. She discovered the city's underground music scene, a hidden gem that was far removed from the glitz of the corporate world and the glamour of the elite. One night, after work, Adriana found herself drawn towards the lively music echoing from a small pub nestled in a cobblestoned alley. Stepping inside, she was greeted by the passionate melodies of a live band. The place was packed with people of all ages, their faces illuminated by the dim lighting, their bodies swaying to the rhythm of the music. This was a different world, a world where people came together to celebrate their love for music, to lose themselves in the soothing symphony of voices and instruments. Here, Adriana felt at home. Here, she could forget her worries and immerse herself in the raw, unadulterated passion of the musicians. Adriana began frequenting the pub, drawn to the authenticity and soulful aura of the place. She made friends with the regulars, the musicians, and even the pub owner, a friendly middle-aged man with a heart as warm as his smile. She discovered bands and artists who played music not for fame or money but for the sheer love of it. One night, Adriana was introduced to the lead singer of a local band, a woman named Lily. Lily was a powerhouse of talent, her voice resonating with a depth of emotion that was moving. The two quickly bonded over their shared love for music and their mutual desire to live life on their own terms. Through Lily, Adriana delved deeper into the underground music scene, attending gigs at hidden venues, discovering new bands, and even participating in open mic nights. She found herself drawn to the rawness of this world, the honesty, and the passion that was a stark contrast to her corporate job and the high-profile parties she attended with Alexander. The underground music scene became Adriana's refuge, a place where she could unwind and express herself freely. It was here that she felt truly connected to the city, its pulse, its people, and its spirit. It was an essential part of her London experience, a part that kept her grounded amidst the whirlwind of her life. Adriana's journey in London was becoming increasingly complex, a blend of contrasting worlds and experiences. Yet, she welcomed it all, embracing every facet of her life with open arms. She was living her adventure, creating her symphony, one note at a time. Chapter 6, The Unseen City. As the weeks passed, Adriana began to see another side of London, a side that wasn't as glamorous or exciting. It was the side of the city that many chose to overlook, the side that was often hidden beneath the glitz and glamour of the metropolis. One day, while returning from work, Adriana's usual route was blocked due to a road closure. She took a detour, leading her through some of the city's less affluent neighborhoods. The stark contrast between these areas and the upscale parts of the city she was accustomed to was startling. Poverty, homelessness, and struggle were evident on the faces of the people and the facades of the buildings. The sight stirred something within her. Adriana had been so caught up in her own world, her dreams, and her challenges, that she had failed to see the struggles of those around her. It was a harsh reality check, one that made her reflect on her own privileges. In the days that followed, Adriana found herself drawn to help those less fortunate. She began volunteering at a local soup kitchen, serving meals and offering a friendly ear to those who needed it. She also joined a non-profit organization that worked towards improving the living conditions in these neighborhoods. Her interactions with the people she met during her volunteer work were eye-opening. She heard stories of resilience and determination, stories of heartbreak and loss. It was a humbling experience, one that made her appreciate her own journey even more. Despite her hectic schedule, Adriana made sure to dedicate a few hours each week to her volunteer work. It was her way of giving back to the city that had given her so much. It was her way of acknowledging the unseen side of the city, the side that needed attention and care. Adriana's journey in London was taking her to unexpected places, introducing her to diverse worlds within the city. She was learning, growing, and evolving with each passing day. She was not just surviving in the city, she was thriving, making a difference in her own small way. As she navigated her corporate job, her relationship with Alexander, her love for the underground music scene, and her commitment to help those in need, Adriana was crafting her unique narrative in the city. She was living her dream, but also waking up to realities she hadn't anticipated. Life in London was turning out to be more challenging, more diverse, and more rewarding than she had ever imagined. Chapter 7, The Turning Point. Months had passed since Adriana's arrival in London, and her life had morphed into a cacophony of experiences. As she juggled her corporate job, her relationship with Alexander, her passion for the underground music scene, and her dedication to volunteer work, she had barely any time for herself. One day, during a particularly grueling week at work, Adriana collapsed from exhaustion. She was rushed to the hospital and diagnosed with severe fatigue and stress. This was a wake-up call, a clear sign that she needed to slow down and take care of herself. Confined to her bed, Adriana had time to reflect on her life. She had been living at a breakneck pace, trying to fit into the fast-moving world of London. In the process, she had lost touch with herself. She realized that while she had been ticking off her goals and living her dream, she had ignored her own needs. During her recovery, Adriana made a decision. She would no longer let the city dictate her life. She would take control, set her boundaries, and prioritize her health and happiness. It was a turning point, a moment of self-realization that would shape the course of her journey. When she returned to work, Adriana spoke to her boss about reducing her workload. She faced resistance and criticism, but she stood her ground. She also decided to take a step back from the glamorous world that came with dating Alexander. She loved him, but she needed space to breathe, to be herself. Adriana found solace in her music and her volunteer work, activities that genuinely fulfilled her. She spent more time at the pub, playing her guitar, and singing her heart out. She dedicated more hours to the soup kitchen and the non-profit organization, finding immense satisfaction in helping others. The decision to slow down and prioritize herself was not easy. She faced judgment and ridicule, both from her colleagues at work and from the media who couldn't understand why she would step away from the limelight. But Adriana remained undeterred. She knew she was doing what was best for her. This chapter of her journey was about self-discovery and self-care. It was about understanding that while the city offered countless opportunities, it was essential to choose what truly mattered to her. It was about learning to balance her dreams with her needs, her ambitions with her health. Adriana was not just surviving the city anymore, she was learning to live in it, on her own terms. She was learning to dance to her own rhythm in the Grand Symphony of London. She was becoming a part of the city, while also ensuring that the city became a part of her. Chapter 8, The Whisper of the Past. Just as Adriana was settling into her new pace of life, an unexpected visitor arrived at her doorstep, a blast from her past. It was her childhood friend, Emma, from their small town. Emma had always been a free spirit, a wanderer, and her sudden appearance in London was not entirely surprising. Seeing Emma brought back a flood of memories for Adriana. They had grown up together, shared dreams and secrets, and supported each other through thick and thin. Emma had always been a constant in Adriana's life, and seeing her after so long stirred up emotions she hadn't anticipated. Emma was traveling across Europe, seeking adventures and experiences. She had stopped by London to see Adriana and to get a taste of the city life. Adriana welcomed Emma into her world, showing her the ropes of the city, introducing her to the vibrant music scene, and even bringing her along to some of her volunteering activities. Having Emma around was a breath of fresh air. Her spirit and energy were infectious, and she reminded Adriana of the simpler times back in their hometown. Emma's perspective on life was vastly different from the city folk Adriana had become accustomed to. She lived for the moment, seeking joy and adventure in the smallest of things. Emma's visit also brought about a sense of nostalgia and longing in Adriana. She missed the simplicity of her old life, the close-knit community, and the familiarity of her hometown. She began to question her decisions, her ambition, and her desire to make it big in the city. But as Emma prepared to leave, she left Adriana with a piece of advice that resonated deeply with her. The past is a comfortable place, but we cannot live there. We must move forward, taking with us the lessons and memories, but always seeking new experiences and challenges. Adriana realized that while she missed her past, she did not regret her decision to move to London. She had grown, learned, and experienced so much in the city. She had become a stronger, more resilient version of herself. She was not the same girl from the small town anymore, she was a woman carving her path in the grand city of London. Emma's visit served as a reminder for Adriana, a reminder of her roots, her journey, and the person she had become. It was a whisper of the past that strengthened her resolve to continue her journey in the city, to face the challenges head-on, and to continue living her dream. The city was her home now, and she was ready to embrace it with all its complexities and nuances. Chapter 9, The Unraveling Life in London continued for Adriana. She had found a balance between work, volunteering, and her love for music. But as time passed, her relationship with Alexander began to strain. His demanding career and her need for space were taking a toll. The spark they once had seemed to be dimming. One evening, after a particularly tense argument, Alexander and Adriana decided to take a break from their relationship. It was a difficult decision, but they both agreed that it was necessary. They needed time apart to figure out their priorities and their future. Adriana was heartbroken. She had envisioned a future with Alexander, but their worlds seemed to be drifting apart. She sought comfort in her music and her work, using them as outlets for her emotions. She poured her heart and soul into her songs, creating beautiful melodies that echoed her feelings. Her breakup with Alexander also ignited a media storm. Their relationship had been public, and their separation was equally publicized. Adriana was thrust back into the limelight, her personal life fodder for the gossip columns. She was criticized and judged, but she held her head high, choosing to remain silent about her personal life. Amidst the turmoil, Adriana found an unexpected ally in her boss, Mr. Anderson. He had seen her struggle and offered her support and understanding. He respected her decision to prioritize her well-being over her work and admired her for standing her ground. Despite the chaos, Adriana remained strong. She was learning to navigate the ups and downs of her life in the city. She was learning that while the city offered her opportunities and experiences, it also brought challenges and heartbreak. But she was resilient, and she refused to let the city break her. Adriana was unraveling, but she was also weaving together a stronger version of herself. She was learning to stand alone, to handle the storms that the city threw at her. She was not just a part of the city now, she was a force to be reckoned with. She was a woman on a mission, a woman determined to leave her mark on the city. Chapter 10, The Melody of Self-Discovery. In the aftermath of her breakup with Alexander, Adriana was left with a gaping void. She struggled to fill the emptiness, diving deeper into her work, her music, and her volunteer activities. It was during this period that Adriana began to discover aspects of herself she had never explored before. Emotionally raw yet determined, Adriana decided to channel her feelings into her music. She started composing her own songs, her lyrics reflecting her experiences and emotions. Her voice, once a mere hobby, became an essential part of her healing process. The underground music scene welcomed her originality, her songs resonating with many who found solace in her heartfelt lyrics. At work, Adriana became more assertive. She was no longer the shy newcomer from a small town. She voiced her opinions, stood up for her ideas, and led her team with a newfound confidence. Mr. Anderson noticed this transformation and gave her more responsibilities, trusting her capabilities. In her volunteer work, Adriana found a sense of purpose. She felt connected to the community, and her efforts were making a difference. This fulfillment was something she hadn't experienced in her corporate job or her relationship with Alexander. This phase of her journey was about self-discovery and growth. Adriana was no longer defined by her relationship, her job, or her status in the city. She was Adriana, the musician, the volunteer, the team leader, the resilient woman who was making her way in the city. She began to accept her breakup with Alexander as a part of her journey. She was grateful for the love they had shared and the lessons she had learned. She was ready to move on, to explore new avenues, to meet new people, and to create new memories. Adriana was evolving. She was becoming a part of the city's fabric, leaving her unique mark on every corner. She was not just living in the city, she was thriving, making the city her own. She was discovering her melody in the Grand Symphony of London. Chapter 11, The Unexpected Reunion. Just as Adriana was embracing her new life, an unexpected encounter shook her. On a typical bustling evening at the pub, she crossed paths with Alexander. Seeing him after months stirred a whirlwind of emotions within her. Alexander had changed. His charismatic aura seemed to have dimmed, and he appeared more grounded. It was evident that the months apart had impacted him as much as it had impacted Adriana. They shared an awkward conversation, tiptoeing around the past and focusing on the present. Alexander confessed that he had been following Adriana's journey. He had listened to her songs and admired the courage and resilience she had shown. He admitted that their breakup had made him reflect on his own life, his ambitions, and his priorities. The conversation with Alexander was a revelation for Adriana. She saw a different side of him, a side that was vulnerable and real. She felt a sense of closure, a sense of peace that she hadn't felt in months. Despite their past, Adriana and Alexander agreed to stay in touch as friends. Their love story had ended, but their respect for each other remained. They had grown apart, but they had also grown as individuals. This unexpected reunion was a significant chapter in Adriana's journey. It helped her gain perspective and closure. It made her realize that while some relationships end, they leave behind lessons and memories that shape us. Adriana was ready to move forward, carrying with her the lessons she had learned from her past. She was ready to explore new horizons, meet new people, and embrace new experiences. She was ready to continue her journey in the city, a journey that was uniquely her own. Chapter 12, The Symphony of Self. As the seasons changed in London, so did Adriana. She had weathered storms, tasted success, faced heartbreak, and emerged stronger. Her journey in the city had been a rollercoaster ride of emotions and experiences. Adriana was no longer the small-town girl lost in the grand city. She was a woman who had carved her path and left her mark on London. Her music had become her identity, her voice echoing in the pubs and streets. Her work at the corporate firm had gained recognition, and her efforts in the community had made a difference. One evening, standing on the rooftop of her apartment building, Adriana looked out over the city. The skyline was a mosaic of lights and shadows, mirroring her journey. She felt a sense of belonging, a sense of home. London was no longer a labyrinth, it was her city. Adriana reflected on her journey, the dreams, the ambitions, the victories, the setbacks, the love, and the heartbreak. She realized that her journey was not just about surviving the city, it was about finding herself. It was about understanding her strengths, acknowledging her weaknesses, and embracing her individuality. She had learned to balance her aspirations with her well-being, to set boundaries, and to prioritize herself. She had found her voice, not just in music but in her life. She had learned to stand up for herself, to make decisions that were best for her, and to navigate the complexities of life on her own terms. Adriana had not just become a part of the city, she had made the city a part of her. She had woven her story into the grand tapestry of London, her melody resonating in the city's symphony. As she stood there, gazing at the city, she knew her journey was far from over. There were more challenges to face, more victories to celebrate, more heartbreaks to heal from, and more experiences to embrace. But she was ready. She was not afraid. She was Adriana, the woman who had dared to dream, dared to love, and dared to make a difference. Her journey in London was a testament to her resilience, her determination, and her spirit. It was a testament to the power of dreams and the strength of the human spirit. It was a testament to the magic of the city that had become her home. In the Grand Symphony of London, Adriana had found her melody. She was not just a note. She was a whole music piece, contributing to the city's harmony. She was Adriana, and this was her London, a city of dreams, a city of opportunities, a city of love, a city of challenges, a city of growth, and most importantly, a city of self-discovery.